Today I'm going to tell you a story of witchcraft, devil worship, incest, bestiality, execution, and of course, hauntings. This is the story of Major Weir, the Wizard of West Bow. So today we're standing in Riddle's Close, which is just off the Lawn Market on Edinburgh's historic Royal Mile. And I'm looking at these buildings here, which is the back of the Edinburgh Quaker Meeting House. Now, they say that some of these old buildings here contain the remains of an old haunted house, which was lived in by Major Thomas Weir. Now, Major Weir had been a soldier, he'd been a commander of the Edinburgh Town Guard, but by 1670 he was retired. He was an old man in his 70s, and he lived in a house here in the West Bow with his sister Griselle. Now, he was known as the West Bow Saint because he was such a religious man. He was a Presbyterian, and he used to hold regular prayer meetings here with a group of followers. He would dress in black, big black cloak, wore a black hat, and he always carried a black walking stick with a carved human head handle. And you would hear the tap, tap, tapping of the stick on the cobblestones before Major Weir came round the corner. So one Sunday in 1670, at one of his prayer meetings, he shocked the congregation because he stood up and he told them that his entire religious life had been a complete sham. He'd been in league with the devil the whole time. He'd been a devil worshipper, he committed incest, bestiality, adultery, and all these shocking crimes. Now, the congregation couldn't believe this, not Major Weir, the West Bow Saint. They thought he'd gone mad. So they actually summoned doctors to examine him. And the doctor said, look, he's not mad, but he's suffering from a terrible guilty conscience. So they pretended that he was ill to keep it covered up so the general population didn't find out. And they questioned his sister, Griselle. Now, they thought the sister would just dismiss the whole thing as fantasy, but she agreed with him. She confessed to the same crimes, and she said they'd lived together as man and wife at their house here in the West Bow, and that they'd lived in an incestuous relationship, and that the devil used to come here in a fiery horse and carriage and take them to Dalkeith, where they would take part in these wild parties and do unspeakable things. She also said that his famous walking stick was a gift from the devil himself and was the source of all of Major Weir's magical powers. And she told the authorities that their mother had been a witch and had taught them the dark arts. So they were both put on trial and found guilty of these terrible crimes, and they were held at the Tolbooth prison. They were then taken to an old leper colony at the bottom of Calton Hill, and eventually they were sentenced to death. Now, Major Weir, he was burned alive at Gallowlee, which is near the top of Leith Walk. And before they burned him, they said to him, look, confess to God, ask forgiveness. And he says, no, leave me alone, I've lived as a beast and I'll die as a beast. And as they burned him, they threw his magic walking stick into the fire, and it's said to have danced and jumped in the flames as he burned. Now, the sister, Griselle, she was hanged down at the Grassmarket Square, and before she died, she said, I intend to die with all the shame I can muster. And she stripped off her clothes in front of the crowd and made lewd gestures before they hanged her. So they're now both dead, buried and forgotten, but what about the house? Well, the house stood there for over 100 years and no one was brave enough to live in it. They thought it was haunted. Strange lights would be seen at the windows, shadowy shapes. So 100 years passed, and then a young soldier called William Patillo moved in with his new wife. They lasted one night. That first night when they were sleeping, they were woken up by a strange sound in the bedroom. They lit a candle and they saw a headless calf floating above the bed. So the two of them got out of there pretty sharpish, and the house was demolished in 1830, but parts of the building are said to remain within the Quaker Meeting House. I think it's the toilet block is supposed to be part of Major Weir's house, and the figure of a dark man is seen around this area, sometimes described as being badly scarred with burns. And if you're ever in this part of Edinburgh, listen out for the tap, tap, tapping of Major Weir's stick, because he might just be coming round the corner to get you.